Hi guys, welcome to Binge Watch Brittany. Today we are going to be covering episode 1 of season 13 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So I've been really excited to do this first episode because I know that we have had a lot of news in the press about everything going on with Kyle and Mauricio, and we also had some news breaking about Dorit and PK. So let's go ahead and get into it. So, I obviously haven't done an episode on past Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season, so I'm not going to recap anything too much. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this first episode. So we have the episode kicking off with a spiritual retreat that Dorit wants to host with the girls, just to kind of heal some of like the friction within the group. And so in the reunion for season 12, we really had Kyle feeling emotionally destroyed and just really breaking down because we had Kathy on the show for the first time, and Kathy Hilton is a huge presence. She's also Kyle's older sister, and so they just have an interesting dynamic there. And so at the reunion we had Lisa Rinna kind of saying, your sister said all of these bad things about you. She wants to destroy your family, blah, blah, blah. And so this really obviously puts Kyle in a hard place of having to, wanting to defend her sister, but then also defend herself against what her sister has said about her. And so Kyle left off at a really bad place. And so in this first episode, there's friction that they want to heal within the group. I actually don't watch BravoCon, and so I wasn't aware that Erica had gone to BravoCon and she was asked about like the next couple to divorce or break up or whatever, and she kind of like sassily mentioned Dorit and PK. And so obviously Dorit was upset about like the show that Erica put on to like answer the question, and I can see where she was coming from. And obviously I don't have any of the backstory on why Erica said Dorit and PK. So that was an interesting tidbit that came out from last night's episode for me. And then obviously we have Kyle having her friction with the group as far as feeling like nobody stood up for her when all of that stuff, I guess, was coming out about what Kathy said about her family. And so she's just kind of not in a good place with the girl. She doesn't feel supported. And then I can't even remember what issues anybody else has with each other. I know that the main storyline was basically Erica's stuff and people just having questions for her and wanting to know how involved she was and just attacking her left and right, and so she just had a lot to deal with. And so they go on this spiritual retreat. They have a woman named Eagle Woman and Blue Raven, and so these are obviously Native American women who are hosting this spiritual retreat. And I did see a lot of comments online about how they were kind of like making a mockery of Native American culture. They weren't taking it seriously, and so people were pretty offended by how they were acting and behaving in the comments that they were making about the spiritual retreat and the actual scenes that were filmed, and then also in the confessionals, the talking heads. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go to my next point. So we really see this really raw moment between Garcelle and her twins, Jax and Jade, I believe. And basically, she takes them out to the beach. They're just having a catch-up conversation, basically. Garcelle is working a lot, so she's not always home. She is divorced, so her kids go back and forth, I believe, between her house and her husband's house. And so one of her sons, I think it's Jax, I can't remember which one it was, but he's basically delivers some like really tough love and kind of not necessarily low blows, but he just gives her the straight truth about his feelings. And he's like, I needed parenting back then, I don't need it as much now, you kind of have to let me do my own thing. And that was really hard for her to hear because it made her feel like a failure as a mother. And one interesting thing that I thought she brought out was that when she was growing up, and I guess in the generations before her even, you parented all of your kids the same. You didn't kind of tailor how you parent it to the individual child. And obviously, in some cases, with me being hearing impaired, and when you have a situation where one of your children has like a medical issue or a medical condition, you're obviously naturally going to have to parent that child differently. But when all of your children are equal in the sense of they're born healthy, they have no medical issues, it's understandable that you would kind of like parent the same way, if that makes sense. And so I just thought that was really interesting that they had that conversation on camera. I thought it was really transparent of Garcelle to want to have that conversation on camera, just because it was really tough for her to hear, and kind of tough maybe for the kid to tell his mom. Obviously, he said it really calmly, really rationally, and it didn't seem to be like overly emotional. So it just seemed like he had a lot of time to process his feelings, and then he was able to deliver his feelings in a respectful way to his mother, even if it did hurt her feelings. And then you have the other twin who just wants to be with his girlfriend, and so I thought it was just interesting that you have basically two sons raised in the same environment, the same household, and they're kind of like completely opposite in terms of their emotional reaction to how they were parented. And I think that speaks a lot to nature versus nurture, and just how your parents interact with you in the home, what circumstances you are raised in, and so on. And so that was just interesting to me as a twin, just seeing other twins on TV and then hearing them talk about their experiences with their mother. So the next one I want to talk about is Kyle and Mauricio. So I know that this is going to be a huge topic for this season, just because before this season even kicked off, we knew that they were separated. Separating. We knew that Kyle has been seen with a woman named Morgan, Mo or something like that. Very interesting that she is involved with someone else who you can also call Mo. So I thought that was just interesting. And I didn't make the connection until now. But anyway, so she has been rumored to be hanging out with Mo, spending a lot of time in Nashville, seen out in public with this woman. And so obviously the implication, because I'm not sure right now at this exact moment if it's a confirmed relationship, but the implication is that she's starting a lesbian relationship with this Mo woman. Just to share some information about Mo, Morgan Wade, she is a country singer. She does present as more masculine, and she's heavily tattooed. And so I think that just draws a lot of attention to the fact that you have this rich housewife in Beverly Hills who's hanging out with this woman who's tattooed, who's masculine presenting, who's a country singer. And so you're just wondering how they even got involved with each other. And obviously Morgan Wade, I think, is significantly younger than Kyle, which is really not a big issue in my opinion. They could just be friends, just hanging out, but you do have to wonder how they got connected. And then obviously you're looking at how they're interacting with each other. Are they interacting like girlfriends? Like, this is someone I tell my secrets to. This is someone I just confide in. This is someone that I treat like a sister, or is just a romantic relationship. And so obviously I think that's going to be a huge part of this storyline, just because we want to see how all of this is playing out. And obviously this is very similar to what we had with VPR, Vanderpump Rules, with the whole time Ariana and Rachel situation, and then even with Real Housewives of Miami, what we had with Lisa and Lenny and their whole situation that played out. Is very noteworthy that we have basically 3 different shows back to back, basically, that have had different affairs exposed and actually kind of captured and talked about on camera while it was kind of like happening. And so, finally, in this episode, we get to Kyle and Mauricio. And one of the things you see when they're having their conversation is you have Kyle, who's kind of trying to pull Mauricio off the phone. He's talking to what I assume is his assistant, Jane. And he's really just trying to, like, figure out his schedule, his work schedule, and kind of, like, different outings or whatever that he has set up for, like, golf and meeting with different people to either just, like, hang out or to actually like conduct business while they're golfing, if that makes sense. And so Kyle was trying to pull him off the phone. They're trying to go over their schedules. And in her talking head, she talks about how it's bad if you have to schedule a meeting to go over your schedule. So what we're getting from this is that they're not spending a lot of time together, and that they basically have to schedule their time together in the time that they do have to spend together. And so Mauricio talked about wanting to go to Spain, I think. She says that she's not able to go on that trip. We don't really know why. We don't know if it's business, if it's because she's hanging out with Morgan, if it's because he just doesn't want to be gone for that long. We just don't really know what is preventing her from going on this possible family trip. And so one of the things that comes up is that Kyle talks about how she has 5 tattoos, and so we do get a close-up of all 5 of her tattoos, and she's having a conversation with Mauricio about these tattoos, and they're talking about how he was aware of 3, and then she got 2 more. And so I have no idea of Kyle's backstory with tattoos. I don't know if she's always had some tattoos or if she literally went from 0 tattoos to 5. And so obviously if you've been dating this woman your whole adult life basically, and then all of a sudden they're getting tattoos, you're gonna obviously be curious about that. You're gonna want to know why that's happening. And then obviously if neither one of you have tattoos, it would be bizarre kind of for one person to suddenly start getting tattoos and then not even really kind of like checking in with the other person, because getting a tattoo is not the same thing as getting your hair cut, or even it's almost as bad as buying a car or something like that without your spouse knowing, without talking over the money issues that come with having bought a new car and stuff like that. And so I really want to drive home the point that I'm trying to make in making this analogy. So say you're a woman and you have a husband who goes out to buy a car, you have no knowledge of it, or maybe you have some knowledge but you didn't think he was serious. So there's a new car that popped up. You weren't consulted in any of the decision making. You didn't determine how the money was going to be spent, what the budget was for this new car. And so your husband comes home and he says, hey, I got this new car. And so you're asking him about it. You're saying, hey, I didn't realize you were serious about the car. What happened? And then your husband's just brushing you off. And then he says, hey, you know what? I'm going to go get another car. Obviously, at that point, you're going to be kind of confused, alarmed, whatever feelings you have when you find out that he wants a new car. And then you're like, hey, no more cars. We need to spend our money on other stuff. No more cars, hon. And then he's just like, no, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm getting another car. And then again, you try to reinforce like, hey, no more cars. Really, I'm not kidding. No more cars. And then that person continues responding in a way that's basically like an FU, because they're saying, no, I'm going to get another car. It doesn't matter what you say. It's not your decision. I'm going to get another car. At that point, that's when you're going to feel upset about one or two things. You're either going to be upset about the car, the fact that he's actually getting a car, or 2, it's not even about the car. And at this point, you're going to be upset that he's not even considering your feelings and the issue. He's not even listening to anything that you're saying. And so I think that this is a fair comparison with the tattoos, because it is about the tattoos, but it's also not about the tattoos. It's about the way this conversation was presented on camera. Even though it is her body, it still represents a significant life change. And so I do think that warrants some discussion with Mauricio about what is leading to all of these tattoos. And so Mauricio, he's finding out that she has 2 more, and she's talking about wanting to get another one, and he's like, love being, that's enough, no more. And then they're just kind of really going back and forth about no more tattoos. No, I'm getting more tattoos. No, that's enough. Stop getting tattoos. No, it's my body. You don't have a decision. Love being, no more tattoos. And so it's just a really awkward conversation, because you have Mauricio trying to be loving, trying to put his foot down, and trying to kind of say, I'm not okay with this, no more, stop. And then she's just completely disregarding his feelings about it. it's not even that she has to defer to what he wants and what he's saying. It's that she's not even considering his feelings. So it's not like she's saying, no, hey, babe, I understand that you don't want me to get any more tattoos, that this is important for you, but this is important for me as well because it's allowing me to express this grief that I have over this situation that happened, and this is my way of expressing myself, and so I really need this, and I need you to get on board. It's not even like she's emotionally appealing to him to kind of accept that she wants to get another tattoo. It's just her telling him, no, you don't have a say, I'm going to do what I want. And so obviously that's really sad to watch on camera because you can obviously see his confusion, his hurt on his face. He just looks really uncomfortable with what is being said to him and how he is being discarded as far as his feelings on the matter. And so that was really sad to see. I just felt like she was way too callous with him. She just seemed like she was completely checked out of that partnership aspect of the relationship, and it was just really sad to see a marriage kind of go that route, in that you have two people who have been reported to be very loving and open together, and the fact that she was saying to Erica that they had people comment and say, hey, you made us stop believing in real love and stuff like that. I obviously didn't have that impression of them. I knew obviously that they were supposedly happily married and that they had a really good relationship, they had a good home life and all of that, but I didn't look to them as the standard for real love for whatever reason. And so when this story broke that they were separated, and I instantly thought of the psychic who told her that she was never going to be fulfilled and all of this stuff and whatever else she said way back in that episode and season where they had the psychic come in, talk to everyone, and just give her truth of the situations or whatever. And so I instantly thought of that, and I was like, okay, was there some truth to what the psychic said? And so obviously we're going to be dealing with kind of like not necessarily the fallout, but we're just going to see how it plays out. Kyle's storyline as far as getting involved with Morgan Wade and how her marriage turns out. And I do know that maybe I think either the day of or the day before, there was a story that broke, and it was Mauricio having public PDA with whoever he's seeing, and Kyle was really upset about that. I don't really know all of the details about that, but I just thought that knowing that we have known for months now that she's been hanging out with this Morgan Wade person, and for me, this is the first time that I'm hearing about Mauricio seeing someone out, so I don't know if there's way more to the story and I'm just out of the loop, but I just feel like it's kind of weird that she's out publicly with this woman and then she's upset that he has just one moment of PDA with this woman and feels disrespected and all of that. And so I don't know if there's any history of cheating in the relationship, but it's just interesting that even if there is history of cheating and they kind of like move past it, that doesn't really give her a license to kind of have her midlife crisis and cheat as well, or experiment outside of their relationship and then get mad at him for doing kind of like the same thing, especially if they are separated. And so just being separated is a weird spot to be in your marriage. Obviously that's a private conversation between those two people, and we don't know what their arrangement is like, but it is interesting to see it play out on camera. And one other thing that I do want to mention, this is about Kyle. So we do see earlier, prior to this conversation with Kyle and Mauricio, that she had to sit down with Dorit, and they're talking kind of about Kyle's relationship with Kathy and how Kyle wants to kind of like stand up for herself more. She wants to kind of challenge that big sister, little sister dynamic that she has with Kathy, and she just kind of wants to take back her power and just not let people treat her however. And then one of the things that she does mention is that obviously Kathy Hilton is well known. She's not necessarily she is a celebrity, but she's also a socialite, and so she has a huge standing in that social circle that they're in. And so obviously people want to party with Kathy Hilton, they want to go to her house, they want to be around her, and so Kyle has to kind of navigate people wanting that more so than they want to either be her friend, or more they want to butter up to Kathy more than they want to like care about how Kyle feels and all of that stuff. And so we have Dorit in that same conversation just talking about her relationship with PK. She talks about how she has PTSD from the break-in that they had, I think either in the past season or the season before that, and she talks about how she just doesn't really feel safe in her home. And we have a snippet, I think, of PK talking about how he understands certain aspects of the PTSD, but then other parts he finds obnoxious. And so obviously we don't really know what that entails and what that actually is like for them in their home, other than what they're showing us on camera. But we just have them navigating Dorit feeling like PK has not been there for her emotionally and has not been her support system. And she talks about him being away to London a lot. We do have Stutton talking kind of about how when the burglary happened, PK was pulled over and he supposedly had a woman in the car with him. I had never heard that story, and I saw that online. Other people had said that they had never heard that detail before either. And so that would just be interesting to see how that played out, because obviously during the episode, playing the first few minutes, we did have a story break that they were, I think, separating or something like that. And so obviously we will get to see that relationship play out over the course of this season. And also one other thing that I want to jump into is Stutton. So we have her kind of navigating having her own store. We have her talking about wanting financial freedom and independence. We know that she was married to a super wealthy man. In the episode, it was revealed in the documents that they put up on screen that she gets $300,000 a month in spousal support. She also has ownership of 2 sports teams, so she is getting a lot of money. And she's talking about wanting financial freedom. She's obviously not going to reject her spousal support because that's a crazy amount of money, and she has earned that from the work that she's put in as far as being a wife, being a mother during those times that she was married. And so she just wants to really focus on financial freedom for herself, and she wants to be successful at whatever career that she builds for herself. And so I think those are all of the major points that I want to hit on for this season. We don't really see anything from Crystal in this episode, so that will be interesting to see what her storyline is for this season. I do want to actually mention one other thing. This is about Erica. So we do see Erica having a therapy session with Dr. Jen. I couldn't think of her name. I had missed that they probably showed her name on TV on the screen when she first came on camera, and I couldn't think of her name, but I knew that I knew her from somewhere, and I didn't know that was the therapist that Erica had been meeting with. So Dr. Jen does a lot of celebrity therapy sessions. I think I've seen her on maybe Marriage Boot Camp and some other TV shows. I can't recall, but I think it's definitely MTV or VH1 that she's kind of known for, if that makes sense. And so we have Erica meeting with Dr. Jen, and they are talking about basically just the next steps for Erica. She talks about her conflicts with the girls and how she wants to work on having empathy for them and what they're going through. And she's like, how do I show empathy? How do I have empathy for somebody else? And so Dr. Jen has to explain that she needs to put herself in their shoes, with knowing their history, their emotional history and stuff like that, to really connect with what it would feel like to be in that situation as that person, and that's how she'll have empathy for them. And they also talk about how she will feel when Tom Giraldi eventually passes. Obviously, he's a significantly older man. He's also, I think, either in a nursing home or hospice or something like that, but he has declined rapidly as far as his medical condition, and he can't care for himself. And so obviously with him being older, he will eventually pass away, and Erica is going to have to deal with those feelings of losing that person, no longer having him around as far as being alive, because I think right now they are separated. I don't know if they're divorced or not, but their relationship did severely break down because of the fraud allegations as far as his lawyer firm and the victims of different cases that he's represented. And so that obviously put a lot of stress on their marriage, and Erica is just really figuring out how to move forward from all of that. And we saw that play out in the past season, and it will obviously continue to play out in this season going forward. So I think I covered everything that happened as far as the major points that I felt were relevant that happened in this episode. I'm really excited to see how the rest of the season plays out, and I really enjoyed watching this episode, and I can't wait to see what is next. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do the episodes going forward. I may do them one at a time. I may do 2 or 3 at a time. I'm really not sure, but I did want to try to experiment with doing episodes immediately after I watch an episode, just to see what that process feels like and what the workload is like and all of that. So I do appreciate you guys tuning in to watch this recap for episode 1 of season 13 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and thank you guys for listening.